Somewhere out there is a person who changed the whole shape of your life, and they probably never knew they did. These are tiny stories about the friends who picked us, waited for us, and quietly rerouted everything. Stay with me. It's the first day at a brand new school, and you don't recognize a single face. At recess, they start picking teams, and one by one the other kids get chosen. You're the only one left, staring at your shoes, just waiting for it to be over. Then a boy with a gap-toothed grin just points at you and says, "I want him on my team." You weren't fast. You weren't good. He picked you anyway. That whole afternoon he taught you the rules, laughing every single time you missed. By the end of the week, you weren't the new kid anymore. You were his best friend. 20 years later, he was the one standing right beside you at your wedding. All because, on a day you felt invisible, somebody chose to see you. Every single morning, she was already there, leaning on my locker before the bell. She'd hand me half her granola bar and tell me everything I'd missed. We weren't loud or popular. We were just each other's first hello of the day. Then in 10th grade, her dad got a job 3 whole states away. On her very last morning, she waited at my locker one final time. She handed me a note and made me promise not to read it until she was gone. It just said, "Thanks for being my reason to come to school." I still don't walk past a row of lockers without looking for her. Some people don't stay in your life. They just stay in your heart. There's a little diner where I never once had to say my order out loud. My best friend worked the counter, and the second I sat down, he started cooking. Grilled cheese, extra pickles, a chocolate shake. He just knew. We were broke kids with big plans and a corner booth that felt like home. Life pulled us to different cities, and the years got loud and busy. Last winter, I drove back through that old town, and the diner was still standing. I slid into our booth, not expecting anything, just missing him. Then a plate slid in front of me, grilled cheese, extra pickles, a chocolate shake. He'd spotted my car in the lot. 20 years, and he still knew my order. Some friendships pick right back up where they left off, like no time passed at all. In 3rd grade, I drew constantly, but I hid every single picture under my desk. I thought my doodles were silly and that everyone would laugh at them. One day, a girl I barely knew leaned over and looked at my notebook. I froze, completely sure she was about to make fun of me. Instead, she quietly slipped me a tiny folded note. It said, "You're really good. Don't ever stop." I read that note about 100 times that night. So I kept drawing, through school, through doubt, through everyone who said get a real job. Today I draw for a living, and that little note is framed above my desk. One kind sentence from a kid who barely knew me decided the rest of my life. Lunch period was the loneliest 40 minutes of my whole day. I'd eat fast with my head down so nobody would notice I was by myself. One Tuesday, it all got to be too much, and I just started to cry. I braced for someone to laugh. Nobody did. Then a tray clinked down across from me, and a girl sat right there. She didn't ask what was wrong. She just said, "Mind if I eat here?" We ate in total silence, but for the first time in months, I wasn't alone. She sat with me every single day after that. She never knew she was the reason I stopped dreading lunch and started dreading nothing. Sometimes saving someone looks like nothing more than sitting down. When I was 9, my entire world was the boy who lived next door. We built forts, traded comics, and swore we'd be neighbors forever. That last summer felt endless. Fireflies, scraped knees, staying out till dark. Neither of us knew his family was already packing up boxes. On the very last night, we sat on the curb and didn't say much at all. I figured we'd ride bikes again tomorrow. We never did. He moved away before I even woke up, and we were too young to keep in touch. I never got to say goodbye to my first best friend. I still think about him every time I see fireflies. Some goodbyes happen without us ever knowing they were goodbyes. I never thought I was good at anything, until my friend lied to a teacher. She told the choir director I'd been dying to audition. I absolutely had not. I only ever sang in the shower, and only when I was completely alone. She dragged me to that audition with my hands shaking the entire way. I almost ran. She blocked the door and whispered, "I believe in you." So I sang, and the whole room went completely quiet. I made the choir, then solos, then a scholarship I never once dreamed of. All of it started because one friend simply refused to let me hide. She didn't just believe in me. She believed loud enough for the both of us. There was a night I sat on my kitchen floor, certain I couldn't keep going. It was 2 a.m., and I scrolled my contacts, sure I'd be a burden to everyone. I called the one friend I knew would still pick up. He answered on the second ring, voice thick with sleep, and said, "I'm here." He didn't try to fix anything. He just stayed on the line. We talked about nothing at all until the sky outside finally turned gray. He stayed awake with me until I made it all the way to morning. That was 11 years ago, and I am still here. He never made a big deal of that night, but I know he saved my life. At my high school reunion, a man I barely recognized walked straight up to me. He shook my hand and said, "You probably don't remember me." I didn't, and I felt absolutely terrible about it. He reminded me. Senior year, he sat alone, and I'd waved him over to my table. I'd forgotten it the same day. To him, it was the day everything changed. He'd been planning not to come back to school that fall at all. He said that one little wave made him feel like maybe he belonged somewhere. Today he's a teacher, and he waves the lonely kids over to his own table. I never knew the smallest thing I ever did became the biggest thing I ever did. You never really know which of your small kindnesses someone is still quietly carrying. Somewhere in your life there's a person who changed everything, and maybe they never knew. Tell me about them down in the comments. And if these little stories found you, stay with me, subscribe, and I'll keep telling them.